Welcome back to the Early Weigh-In Podcast. This Saturday, Newark, New Jersey, UFC 316. We got the rematch for the bantamweight strap. Merab making another title defense against Sugar Sean O'Malley, former champion, and then two-time champ Juliana Pena looking to defend her title against Kayla Harrison, the person we've long been waiting for to get this title shot. 13 fights on deck. Ready for it to break them down here with you, man. As far as last week, always going to talk about it. Super small card from us both. I on the L2, man, really wanted to just get back on track. Liked one play, the Ramiz Brahimaj, Billy Golf, under 2.5 rounds, sitting at minus 150, 60%. And, Ramiz's round one or bust submission went out there and did that. That was sitting like plus 800, plus 1,000 for a big dog like that who's so reliant on a round one finish. Felt like we maybe missed a huge prop to hit, but happy to just profit 0.67 units and get back on track. And then, every right to be a little bit salty about yours, man. I thought you should have just broke even, but let you recap that one.
Yeah, so it looks like on here it's just showing Amanda to win, but I had her in a parlay with Aaron Blanchfield, which after seeing how Macy didn't show up, I think the Blanchfield side would have won.
Right.
But Amanda, I mean, trusting her, man, it was really tough to find any spots on this card, and I feel like I kind of reached for that parlay, and I paid the price for it. I lost a unit there, and then Todorovic decision only. I don't know, man. I thought he won, but then on top of that, like pretty much every other scenario where it does hit the judges' scorecards, I expected him to win, and it just didn't get the nod. Like you said, maybe thought I should have broke even, but it's a -2 unit night. Not something that's hurting me too bad, but I am a little bit salty, like you said. Moving on to the first fight of the night in the lightweight division, Markel Medeiros taking on a newcomer Mark Chojninski. Medeiros pulled out of his last fight. It said had like a stomach bug going into fight Bologioki, and I'm a little salty about that one too, man. We were both on Medeiros, and I feel like that was a call to Vegas. Like there might have been too much money on Medeiros, and they didn't want to, lose that fight, so they moved him to the next card, said that he's okay, and then gave him a little bit easier matchup. Here in this fight, Mark, he's a wrestler by heart. It looks like he's really willing to sit on his punches because he's not too worried about the takedown. When he does get taken down, he seems to get back to his feet pretty well. Here, I think the biggest problem that he's going to face against Markel is the footwork of Markel. Markel's footwork is phenomenal. He's constantly giving you different stance switches and looks on the feet. And I think if he can avoid the early pressure of Mark, he will eventually really start to find his shots and probably light him up. The only fight that I watched was Ricky Simone's younger brother against Chojninski, and he touched him quite a bit. I think Markel packs a little bit more power, a little bit more precise with his shots, and Markel's defensive wrestling has been pretty solid up until this point. So I expect him to get this done pretty easily, and I wouldn't be surprised if he found that finish he's been searching for.
Yeah, on the Medeiros side as well, talked about playing him at plus money, like plus 150, I think it was, against Bologioki, now big chalk number next to his name. He's not really the fighter, who separates in a lot of his fights, so I think he'd be easier in this one than his previous two. I do. But again, not a guy who typically separates a lot in his fights. Both UFC fights so far have been super close. And then the quick turnaround as well, whatever the circumstances are. Don't really like the complete line flip and things, even though it might be warranted. Because the Chojninski side, man, doesn't really impress me too much. Pretty one-dimensional. You see he's a long time training out of Rufus Sport, and you see he's fighting out of Anthony Pettis' fighting club. So it's like, I don't know, you got to think those are hand-picked opponents for him each time out. Medeiros, I agree with you, man, should style on him. And for Medeiros here, a guy who really relies on the footwork and the volume, I think it's a huge benefit for him to not be in the apex and to have the big cage, especially against a guy who's going to be trying to push the takedowns. So, I'm on the Medeiros side. I think he probably wins it pretty cleanly as well. But I'm more tempted to hit the over. Your angle's always the undefeated guy losing by decision for the first time. And then with Medeiros, kind of one of these guys who doesn't sit down on his punches a lot, relies on the volume. I'm kind of leaning toward that over. It's kind of chalky at like minus 175, so maybe it's a parlay leg, but I lean Medeiros by decision. Staying at men's lightweight, Quinlan Salkill taking on Yanal Ashmus. Man, it might be a close fight early, but I kind of like the things I see from Quinlan Salkill. I think he has great size for 155 and is able to fight at a really, really high pace, and whether that be in the striking, in the clinch, in the grappling. And I think that's what's going to ultimately win him this fight. I don't see an early finish on his side. I feel like if there's an early finish, it is on the Ashmu side, similar to the Sam Patterson, maybe where he gets on the inside, lands a big bomb or something. But more likely, I think Quinlan might get a round 2, round 3 stoppage. I think that pace, that forward pressure, just going to wear on you now. And I think he could find his way on top, potentially get a submission. So, yeah, Salcott inside the distance if I had to pick, but sitting at almost minus 500, I don't really know how I'm going to play that if I do.
Yeah, I mean, this is a dogger pass situation for me. Quinlan, like you said, his size for the division is probably the best part of his game. He's extremely aggressive, so that's going to look good early. But somebody like Yanel, who's very tough to finish, I don't think he's been finished in his professional career. Or has he? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Just one loss.
No, he is not. I think that he's going to give us some more looks that we haven't seen out of Quinlan. I really doubt that he covers that price tag. And I'd be much more inclined to just hit the underdog and somewhat of a lower level fight at 155 pounds and just call it a night for that fight. So not a lot of conviction, but it's Yanel or pass for me. Going down to the 145-pound class, Ju Sang Yu taking on Jekka Sergi. I mean, I tend to agree with the line here. I think Sang Yu is a much better fighter, at least a much better striker. He doesn't carry as much power as Jekka, but I think he's the much cleaner striker. If he can keep the fight on the outside, he'd probably style on Jekka. The times that I have seen Ju Sang Yu getting taken down, he seems to know what he's doing off the back. He can hit some sweeps. It looks pretty decent. So I think that he'll be able to just kind of edge him out and anywhere the fight takes it or anywhere the fight goes. Not very high on Jekka. Hits pretty hard, but outside of that, I'm not too impressed with him. So Sang Yu is the pick, but again, it's like a price tag I'm not trying to pay for a lower level fight.
Yeah, I really don't know how much I can add to that, man. It seems like Jekka is KO or bust. Ultimately, I think Ju Sang Yu is the better fighter everywhere, just like the line indicates. I think he could style on him on the feet, way more finesse, way more volume, and likely should have a massive advantage on the mat if he were to take it there. Jekka's a guy who's been finishing all 4 losses, so with you sitting there almost minus 500, I don't expect the inside the distance to even be that good of a price tag either. But yeah, Ju Sang Yu inside the distance, how I see that one going down. Ariana Lipski da Silva taking on Kong Wang. Man, is the line wide? It might be, but Ariana Lipski gets beat by people out grappling her. So I don't really see her going out there and putting a grappling game plan to beat Kong Wang. I think Kong Wang probably has the superior ground game. In the road to UFC, I saw her get on top, mount a guillotine. There's times where she's looked good on top, and I think that is enough to negate anything Ariana Lipski is going to throw at her grappling wise. And I think Kong Wang's a much better striker, sits down on her punches. Wouldn't be shocked if she were to get Silva out of there. So yeah, I've tried to fade Kong Wang in the past. I don't think this is necessarily the one, but yeah, I'm not crazy about the price, but I think she gets it done.
Yeah, I think I was with you trying to fade her with Bruna Brazil in the last time out, and Bruna just looked like deer in the headlights whenever she saw how fast Kong Wang was throwing. Right. And if Ariana Lipski isn't respecting the power and the speed of Kong Wang, I think that there's a pretty decent chance that she gets caught. Not really a amazing wrestler, so it's going to be hard for her to get the fight to the ground, even though we have seen that's Kong Wang's weakness. I think that she's probably the rightful favorite, but still, it's like minus 500. I wouldn't be surprised if Lipski goes in there and exploits the holes in Kong Wang's game, who definitely has them. Minus 500 is going to be a hard price tag for her to cover if she doesn't get the finish. So Kong Wang's the pick, but wouldn't be betting that.
Yeah.
Moving up to the welterweight division, Chaos Williams with his third opponent on June 7th against Andre Gustafsson, who was supposed to fight last weekend. I forget who it was against, but
it was Jeremiah Wells.
Got me on that one?
Yeah, Jeremiah Wells and then Trevin Giles. So it's on his third opponent too.
Yeah. So, both these guys, I'm sure, eager to fight. I think it's a good matchup. Chaos Williams is not somebody I enjoy betting on, man. He's kind of one of those meme fighters where it just seems like he's not that great. He kind of overextends on his punches, and somehow he is able to find the knockout just about every time.
Right.
Gustafsson, he's like a super gritty fighter, maybe not the most technical, but he is going to press you up against the cage and really push a pace. I could definitely see this fight going two different ways. Chaos, touching Gustafsson whenever he gets a little reckless on his entries. And then I could definitely see Gustafsson just grinding Chaos Williams out, and Chaos not really having much of an answer. Chaos is a decent takedown defense and at least a good get-up game whenever he does get taken down. So I understand that him winning the striking exchanges and then him showcasing in the past that he does have decent get-up game, why he's the favorite. But I'd be much more interested in playing the Gustafsson underdog spot than laying juice on Chaos Williams.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I feel like Chaos, while he is live to get the KO, it's kind of because I don't really see what things that I like from Australian Gustafsson on the feet. I think he just kind of swings big to close the distance, and the defense really isn't there. So, I could see somebody like Chaos putting combinations together or landing a counter shot that does put him down. But ultimately, I kind of lean the same way you do. I think Gustafsson's just going to put together a game plan where he puts Chaos on the fence and just kind of negates him, beats him up in the dirty box, and lands some elbows. I was kind of thinking, Chaos is an extremely durable guy. Maybe Gustafsson by decision might be a decent look. But ultimately, both of these guys, all the opponents swap ups. I do think Chaos is a lot more physical than somebody like Trevin Giles is going to be. So there are ways where it could be a tougher fight, and the line does indicate that. But yeah, I think it's dog or pass. Andre Gustafsson by decision, if anything, but not a lot of confidence on either side, man. Sergey Spivak and Waldo Acosta. This is like the only fight where somebody's minus 150 or under. One of the closest betting the betting lines on the card. You got Sergey Spivak, who, man, he's fought the much better competition in my eyes. A lot higher level heavyweights, and I like guys who can grapple, and that's something that I don't really think Waldo Acosta has seen. Somebody who's going to go straight to the offensive grappling the way Sergey Spivak will. But what I don't necessarily like is Sergey Spivak is beating guys who kind of wilt, man, like Tuivasa and things, guys who don't really have the cardio. And I think Waldo Acosta, while he does have good boxing and volume, his cardio is great for heavyweight. It's above average, man. And I feel like he could make Spivak work. I feel like he could get up from a couple takedowns. And if Spivak is still there in round 3, I think Acosta takes round 3 at a super high clip. I'm not so sold that there's a finish here. So it's like, I don't know, how do I favor, man? A couple takedowns or volume on the feet when it is there. So ultimately, I think we see a heavyweight fight that's going to go the distance, and I think it's going to be extremely close. Part of me feels like it could be like the Gamrot fight, where it's just like this guy's minus 150, and he's clearly fought the better competition, and he could just rinse and repeat with some takedowns. I don't know, man. Part of me thinks that Waldo Cortez Acosta is just kind of, while he's not the youngest heavyweight, he is kind of new to the game, and he looks to be getting better each time he's out there. So in a big cage, I like his footwork. I like his volume. I'm going to go Acosta, man, ever so slightly.
Yeah, so this is like the first fight we disagree on. I'm on the Sergey Spivak side. I'm not sure how aggressive I'm going to be hitting it, but I do think that he's the rightful side here, man. I think Waldo's kind of lucked up in the competition that he has been matched up with. I mean, you go down the line, Bresky, 43-year-old Arlovsky. We know how bad Robelis to Spain is, and then Ryan Spann, who's always been chinny. I just think that Spivak is almost the perfect opponent to kind of exploit the holes that the other guys that he's been matched up against haven't been able to. And you touched on it a little bit as well, just the level of competition, man. Like the fact that he can beat Marcin Tybura and Derek Lewis, like that tells me a lot. And even in the first round, he looked pretty good against Jailton Almeida for the first part of it before he didn't, I'm not sure that Waldo Cortez Acosta is going to be able to have the same type of, grappling defense that Jailton Almeida did. And I do expect Sergey to kind of have his way, at least in the first half of this fight, and secure enough in that second and third round just to slightly win the round. So I see this as a 29-28 or a 30-27 for Sergey Spivak. And us kind of looking back on this fight and realizing that was a really good price tag. So maybe a unit and a half, something like that on Sergey Spivak. But I'd love for the Waldo Cortez Acosta bettors to continue betting that line down. He seems to be a popular dog this week, and I think that this is a buy low spot for Sergey Spivak, who's just had some pretty tough matchups recently. And you see Waldo Cortez Acosta on a 4-fight win streak. Like, I think that this is just a good spot to bet the better fighter here at Sergey Spivak. Moving down to the 205-pound division, we have Azamat Murzakanov taking on Brendanson Ribeiro. Don't know the odds for this prop, but I like fight ins by TKO here, man. I think Brendanson Ribeiro, he's willing to commit to the shots that he takes. He's a little bit sloppy in the way that he enters. He'll completely overthrow with the right hand. He is packing some power when he does throw it. And then Azamat Murzakanov, for him being undersized for the weight class, he moves great, dude. I mean, He's got really good footwork, really good fluidity, keeps his eyes on the target, and is just playing that inches game. You know, he's not afraid to get hit, and he's willing to stay in the pocket and then deliver a pretty nasty counter left hand. And then he pumps that jab, and I think he'll eventually find get the read on Brendanson Ribeiro over the course of 3 rounds and eventually find the knockout. But early, I do think that Brendanson has some decent power, and there's a chance that he gets the knockout, So I like the fight ends by knockout, specifically in Murzakanov getting the KO and in rounds 2 or 3. How you seeing this one?
The same way, but I think it's a little bit earlier. Not crazy about the minus 575. Azamat Murzakanov is the older guy, the guy who's at the metric disadvantage. Cardio is not great. But you touched on the big point, man, is I think the speed disadvantage in this fight is insane. The footwork, the striking, everything. And I like Azamat to get him out of there in round 1. I was looking at the under 1.5 at minus 160. I think that's a much better line than minus 575. Because if Azamat doesn't get it done in 7.5 minutes, I don't trust his cardio late in fights. And truth be told, if the fight slips over a round and a half, I think it could be because Ribeiro finds his way on top a little bit with the grappling. So not crazy about the price, but I do think that there's a world where Azamat just comes in there and is just way too fast and way too good of a striker, and puts Brendan down in round 1. So under 1.5, how I'm going to lean that Azamat Murzakanov for the pick. Moving down to men's flyweight, pretty solid prelim main event, man. Bruno Silva taking on Joshua Van. Joshua Van is minus 625, and he's probably going to drop the first round in this fight. And so it's really hard to ever get behind anything like that. But, when this dude turns it up, his boxing is on point, the body work, everything, man. Joshua Van, super young, is going to be in the UFC for a long time. Bruno Silva's a dog, man. And Bruno Silva could have grappling upside. Not only is Joshua Van a slow starter, we've seen him give up takedowns before, and so we've seen him knocked out before. There's plenty of reasons not to go lay minus 600 here pre-fight. But ultimately, if Bruno lets Joshua Van build into this fight, I do like what I see from Joshua Van damn near every single time he's out there in round 2 and round 3. And I think it's just going to wear on Silva and the volume, and things will do enough. I think it goes to decision. I think we see Van potentially drop the first one and win round 2 and 3 on the scorecards.
Yeah, so, the saving grace for that is Bruno Silva packs enough power to where one drop in rounds 2 or 3 and he could win the round. And I think that's why I'm considering betting him at plus 455. I think that we could see a fight like the Zhalgas Zhumagulov split decision that Joshua Van had, except for Bruno Silva packs a little bit better punch. And we could see him steal a round with just one drop. And plus 455 is a pretty decent number to just see that happen. We've got a lot of minus 500s or more on the card. And one of them is going to lose. This is the one where I see something happening. So it's a decent price tag for somebody in Bruno Silva who is constantly underrated. Maybe a little bit over the hill, dropped a few fights, and I feel like this is another spot where it's going to be closer. Like you said, it's pretty likely that Joshua Van drops the first round and we're getting a plus 455 pre-fight. This is the spot where I think that you could take a a little bit of a sprinkle, if not just a unit shot, and win 4.5 units back. So Bruno Silva's the pick for me. I think he's a high enough level fighter that I'm comfortable betting on him with that type of price tag. So
Yeah,
give me Bruno Silva here. Like you said, I don't know,
I
man.
could get.
I don't trust Joshua Van at minus 650. Go ahead.
I was just saying I could get behind a Bruno Silva dog play, and
Yeah.
then with him being plus 455, I wonder what the plus 3.5, what a plus even 5.5 would be on DraftKings. So with a line like that, a couple things I think we could look at here, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on to the opener of the main card, we have Vicente Luque taking on Kevin Holland. Thank the Lord Kevin Holland is back at 170 pounds, man.
Yeah.
Every single time he jumps up to 185, I think it's a bad decision. And here recently, more often than not, it has been. Comes back against Gunnar Nelson, kind of lets me down a little bit because I'm pretty sure I was in on him for inside the distance. He had that, he could have definitely finished that fight against Gunnar Nelson, but it just didn't come to fruition. Vicente Luque, I don't know, man. Of course he comes back, gets the anaconda choke on Thimba Garimbo, but the fight before that against Joaquin Buckley, I'm almost positive he threw that fight. I'll say that till the day I die. Like, that just looked super suspect to me, and I didn't want to bet him after that ever again. Here against Kevin Holland, like, I think it's a good matchup, like this is a good name for both of these guys and a somewhat easier matchup for what they could be matched up against at 170 pounds. Don't know what the line is, but the fight ends by submission. I think that's a decent look. Both these guys are long and really good at finding submissions, and I think that this fight could hit the mat. If I was Vicente Luque, I sure as hell would try and get this fight to the mat because Kevin Holland is really long and really fast. So you can get the fight ends by submission at plus 320, and I feel better about that than I do about betting Vicente Luque straight or laying nearly minus 300 on Kevin Holland. Even if it's a club and sub from Kevin Holland, I like it, and the Vicente Luque I think is probably a little bit more skilled on the mat. So Jimmy fight ends by decision plus 320 or whatever the hell I just said, and I like that. Kevin Holland is the pick, though?
Yeah. Kevin Holland's a pick for me, too. Maybe if I had saw it at minus 170, but it's like minus 270 at this point. So definitely untouchable. Kevin Holland's kind of a wild card. I do think you said it best. When he's at 170, that is his best. I think he's forced to take his career a lot more serious. And, these guys at 170 aren't massive and have huge weight advantages over him on fight night, able to exploit the takedown defense. I'm not sold on Vicente, being able to land many takedowns. I think if he has any success, maybe it's with the calf kicks against Kevin Holland. But man, I just feel like the speed and things are just going to be a lot. The athleticism, the length, speed, everything at this point of his career. The win over Thimba does nothing for me, man. I truly think Vicente is shot at this point. And so, Kevin Holland inside the distance. Probably won't play it.
Big juice on Kevin Holland inside the distance.
Yeah, won't be doing it. Man, fight ends by Darce. Super live. I like it where your head's at there. Moving on up the card. Super popular fight here, man. Mario Bautista taking on Patchy Mix. Patchy Mix finally making his UFC debut. I know a lot of guys scream that this is, the best bantamweight in the world. Do I think he's one of them? Do I think he's going to hang with the top 5, the top 10 of the UFC? I do. I'm hesitant to say he's the best in the world. I do think skill set wise on the mat, dude's a real issue. His jiu-jitsu is next level. His ability to take the back, his guillotine, all very great things. But his jiu-jitsu might really be the only advantage he has here in Mario Bautista, man. Bautista, I think, has the better offensive wrestling. I think Bautista, push comes to shove, I would say is probably the more durable of the two, has the better cardio of the two. I think pushes a higher pace, just brings the fight a little bit more than Patchy Mix does. And on the other hand, Patchy Mix is making his debut on a pay-per-view, on a big card. I don't know, man. There's going to be some jitters there. And I just feel like if this line gets out of control, if we see Patchy Mix touch minus 200, minus 210, and it might force my hand on Mario Bautista, man. He's been here. He's done it before. He's been in big fights, and I I think he has advantages. And so if this line continues to climb, you might see me hit Mario Bautista. Give me Bautista for the pick. I'll side against the popularity pick in Patchy. So yeah, give me Mario Bautista by decision.
Yeah, man, Bautista just doesn't have a game plan that people want to bet on. It's
Right.
not a fight style that makes you a fan of his, but it wins in fights, and so it's kind of hard to pick against him. With Patchy Mix, I think the only thing missing from the Jose Aldo fight was Aldo, while it was up against the cage, landing shots, doing damage. He was constantly trying to get the fight stood up, give him a break, and Bautista just wasn't giving it to him. At least on the Patchy Mix side, he's going to be fishing for submissions. He's going to be looking to, kind of change things up. And I think that might be what wins in the contest. And, in a fight where I think Bautista is going to make it close because he's going to make it boring. But as long as Patchy Mix is throwing up stuff and trying to win minutes on the judges' scorecards, just go for some attempts, even if they don't work, I think that the judges will give him the nod just for aggression alone. So while I don't think he covers the price tag at minus 180, I do think that he'll probably do just enough to get the win. And, God forbid, if the UFC had any involvement in this fight, I think they want Patchy Mix to win. So
I was just about to say, they want to punish Mario Bautista for that last one.
Absolutely. So, this is just a spot where it's like, I think the line's kind of gotten away from me. I don't think that Patchy's going to be a clear winner, even though I think he gets the W here. So it's just a pass fight for me altogether. And I'm kind of looking forward to see how he does in the UFC, finally getting him here,
Yeah.
Moving up to the middleweight division, Kelvin Gastelum taking on Joe Pyfer. Man, I'm not terribly high on Joe Pyfer, but what he does have going for him is he's massive, man. He's massive. He's got good top pressure, and he hits really fucking hard, man. Kelvin Gastelum, notoriously durable, but we've now seen him finished a couple of times. Now, it wasn't by knockout, but man, if there was a fighter that was going to knock him out, I think it could be Joe Pyfer, man. Kelvin Gastelum, not really old, but he's certainly help me out here. He's certainly weathered, He's got a lot of fight miles on him. And I just think that this is Joe Pyfer's time to shine. I don't like the price tag on him. I kind of don't like him as a person. He's a little arrogant. But I do think that he gets it done, whether it's by decision or by knockout, being the first, maybe the first guy to finish Kelvin Gastelum on the feet. I think the fact that it's 3 rounds is in Joe Pyfer's favor. If this was a 5-round fight, I'd be more inclined to look at the Gastelum side, but it's not. So give me Joe Pyfer here. I don't like the price tag, though.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. If it was 5 rounds, if it was back in Mexico, maybe I'd take a flyer on Kelvin Gastelum, but not here. I do like the Joe Pyfer side. I think he's probably going to do just enough, land the bigger shots, maybe land a takedown or two. But I don't think that there's going to be a finish here at all, man. I don't think Joe Pyfer is going to be the first one to put Kelvin away on the feet, and I don't think Pyfer near has the jiu-jitsu of Hermanson, Lucky falling into the heel hook, or Sean Brady, man. I don't think Pyfer has that kind of jiu-jitsu at all. And Kelvin's got the big cage to work around here. He's the one who kind of relies more on the footwork, the volume, being the smaller guy. So, having the big octagon to work with, I think could be huge for him. So I'm on the Pyfer side, but the play I released today, first one on the card for me, I got Gastelum Pyfer over 2.5 rounds, minus 125. Typically when I hit the overs, man, it's ones I feel good about. So it's a rare play for me to ever hit an over, but I got a pretty good track record for it. Hopefully I don't jinx it too much, but yeah, 3 rounds is big for it here. I like Pyfer to edge out a decision. And getting to our big fights, man, 2 title fights. We got Juliana Pena defending her title against Kayla Harrison. I don't know, man. I think Kayla Harrison's going to dominate early. I think Juliana Pena is probably going to be even bigger than plus 500 come the end of round 1, maybe even the end of round 2. Juliana's tough. I don't think she's going to quit. But I do think she could get put in a compromised position where the ref just steps in. I could see Kayla getting to mount and the ref just stepping in, even though Juliana doesn't want him to. Juliana is as tough as a woman comes, and if we do see this fight go 10 minutes, it's the first time we've seen Caleb fight. At 135 in a 5-round fight, and things could get a little bit dicey. But at the same time, I kind of think that her last fight against Ketlin Vieira was a harder fight than this one's going to be, man. I thought Ketlin Vieira is a girl who is a better grappler, is a lot more physical, wouldn't go down as easy, but Kayla only had to do it for 3 rounds. And now this has the championship rounds and a girl who is willing to dog it out. So I don't know. I watched the Nunes fight back this week. You could tell Nunes was on her way out. You could almost tell she didn't even prepare for that fight, man. It looked like she had, I don't know, man, 2.5 minutes of gas, and she was just all right, folded up, ready to go home. I don't think Kayla Harris is going to be like that. I think Kayla Harris is going to have 10, 11 minutes of gas in her. I think she's going to be a bit more prepared. So I'm not thinking that the comeback is going to happen in the same fashion. It might be a little bit later. But, I'm going to go Kayla Harrison. I'm going to go Kayla Harrison, round 2, ground and pound, TKO, and new.
Yeah, man. I think that this would be a tough matchup for pretty much the same points. It's just Juliana's so tough, and she at least has the 5-round experience. I know that Harrison went 5 rounds with the juiced up girl and Pacheco. Pacheco. But what was that?
I just said PFL.
PFL, thank you. But there were some times where, we saw it in the Aspen Ladd fight where she gets Kayla Harrison's back. And I think that Juliana is scrappy enough that she could wind up in those positions. And if it goes late, I think that she just has the experience where she could come out on top. This is just yet another fight where I know we're talking about the 2 best bantamweights in the world, but in my head, it's still somewhat low level. Like there are holes in Kayla Harrison's game, and Juliana Pena just isn't that technical for being a champion. So I would not be surprised if we see an upset on Saturday. And plus 500 for somebody with the belt, it's kind of hard to pass up, man. I'd be more interested in – what was that?
Feels wrong.
It does feel wrong, man. Like I would understand Pena plus 230, 250, something like that. But plus 500 is just kind of getting out of whack. And I'm not sure that Kayla Harrison having to make 135 pounds on the dot for the first time is going to look the exact same or have the same amount of gas tank. So, plus 500 might look ridiculous in hindsight. And I could certainly be talked into placing a half unit on Juliana Pena. So it's Pena or pass for me. Probably pass, though. Moving on to the main event, we have Merab Dvalishvili taking on Sean O'Malley at 135 pounds. We bet Sean O'Malley last time out. I know, I've seen some breakdowns online where there's some arguments that Sean O'Malley won the first fight. I think that that's a little bit of a stretch, but coming into this one, I think that, his mind seems to be right, man. He's doing all the right things inside of his camp. I think he's going to come in with the right game plan. I think he's going to be more confident knowing that he can get up whenever Merab does take him down. And I think that we see him, really sit down on his punches. If he lands a couple, like there was a time where he staggered Merab Dvalishvili. I feel like, after I believe it was the 5th round, he hurt Merab to the body. And I think if he starts that body work early, that might be his path to victory. We could see him start catching those the shots that he just didn't fully commit on in the first fight. And plus 240, I think, is a gift. He was my first pick in the fantasy league, and I do think he gets it done here. The knockout prop is plus 500. So I wouldn't be surprised if I see, half unit on that or even just a 0.25. I've already played him straight. I know you're on him too. And talk him up, man. Happy that we're both on him.
Yeah, man. I mean, it was a 3-2 fight. I know it was clear Merab won the fight, but you break it down round by round, and it's a 3-round to 2. 3-1 at worst. And who's the one getting the who was the closest to finishing that fight? It was O'Malley. It was in the 5th round. Like he can prove he can lose a fight and still be dangerous to the last minute, that he's not willing to give up. And I mean, I think he was compromised. I'll just come out and say it, man. He's had a surgery during this off time. Like I think something was wrong with OMalley, and I think the way, like you said it, the way he's dialed in, the way there's no social media, there's no smoking. Um, I feel like that further reiterates that he knows he wasn't his best self that night, and he's not going to leave a stone unturned this time. And there will be no excuses this time if Merab goes out there and beats him. If he loses Saturday night, it's because Merab's a better fighter, and I think he's willing to accept that. So I think Sean's gone all in. He's the guy who's the better striker. He's got great cardio. He's got all the big moment upside. The UFC would love to wrap the belt or back around his waist again in terms of a fan favorite style and everything. So, yeah, I think there's plenty of adjustments that Sean O'Malley could make in this camp to finish Merab or even just win a couple moments. Merab, while he racks up control time, he doesn't rack up damage. And so, let him rack up 3 minutes of control and Sean land one big shot that wobbles him or staggers him. And that could be a Sean round. So, yeah, at plus 240, I think is what both you and I got him at. I had to go back to the well, so glad to see you're on him as well. It's all 13 fights. Go ahead.
Yeah, something else to think about is this is maybe Sean's best matchup in the top 3 opponents to win the belt. We've seen him already against Peter Yan. I don't think that Umar Nurmagomedov is a good matchup for him either. Merab Dvalishvili is kind of the opponent that I think that he could reclaim that title. Probably won't hold on to it for long, but this is the matchup. This is the time to do it, I think.
Yeah, 100% agree, man. Maybe that knee up the middle, something. There's plenty of weapons that I think a striker like Sean could have to deter some things Merab this go around. So, yeah, plus 240. Could look like a gift. Plus 500 on the knockout. Plus 3,000 on the submission. I was looking at that as well. So, yeah, man, I hope Sean pulls it out on Saturday. I appreciate you guys hanging out with us. It's all 13 fights. And as always, we'll see y'all next week.
Peace.